Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. So guys, sorry that the weekly news is out a little bit later than usual, and obviously more just a quick one on the mobile phone rather than our usual camera setup. So yeah, we're just going to run through the main things. It's been my birthday the last couple of days, so we've been out and about. But here, we're still going to give you the news. Don't think taking a day off, even though it's my birthday. So, the first part of the news, obviously, we still have to reflect on the sadness of Antoine Hubert's death, and obviously two of the kind of main involvements within that crash. The first one being Juan Manuel Correa. He has been moved to the UK, still in intensive care. I believe he underwent surgery and is still in a stable condition. But obviously, thoughts still with him and his long road of recovery ahead. The second point in relation to that affects the F2 this weekend, and Alesi, with his Trident car that was involved within that obviously tragic accident with Hubert, that car has been impounded for investigation in its involvement by the FIA, and Alesi will drive his teammate's car this weekend. Now moving on to Monza, and obviously the only place we can start off with the F1 Weekly news and this weekend's racing is that Monza has secured its contract to 2024, and that is fantastic news. We spoke about it in our race preview. It's just one of those classic races. It's one of it was the third purpose-built racetrack ever. Such history. One of the original F1 tracks in the 1950 season. Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic to keep this track on the calendar. Also looking ahead to this weekend, just Ferrari and Mercedes, they both came out and they said they had a few fears and worries about engine problems this weekend. Obviously, we saw in Spa in terms of both of their feeder teams, essentially, or teams that buy the products from them, so kind of Williams, Alfa Romeo, and the Racing Points. Well, the Racing Points and Williams for Mercedes and the Alfa Romeos for Ferrari both had issues with the engines, and so they're a little bit worried and skeptical of that, although Ferrari believe the problem that Giovinazzi had with his car is nothing to worry about and they're fixable there. Mercedes, I think, yeah, we're a little bit wary of the consequences, obviously, with those two engine failures that set the engine alight coming at Spa. But we'll wait and see whether anything happened. Obviously, we had practice today and nothing happened in that. But then again, it was a mix of those dry and wet conditions. So teams weren't really able to get full practice runs on either a full wet session or a full in the dry session. We also have Max Verstappen, positive and optimistic about the Spec 4 engine this weekend, and this is probably a good point to go through the drivers who will take penalties. So Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly will both take penalties, mirroring obviously Albon and Kvyat last week with that Honda upgrade, and I believe Max will actually run the Spec 4 engine, because obviously Albon and him both ran the Spec 2 engine last weekend, and it was only Kvyat who was able to run the Spec 4 engine in Spa, and yeah, it looked quick. It looked a good engine upgrade from Honda, so excited to see where that puts them in the standings. Sorry, cough there. So looking ahead, it could be wet this weekend, which obviously Ferrari has the power advantage going into Monza, and Charles Leclerc has been looking very quick, obviously buoyed with confidence from his first win out. But obviously, yeah, rain ahead of this weekend could really be an issue for them. So obviously they would still have an advantage because they still show natural pace in the rain, but they would lose that power advantage that they're hoping really helps them secure maximum points this weekend. Going on to some probably more paddock gossip in the news. Kvyat came out in an interview and it almost came across as quite bitter. I don't know if this... Obviously, he has, I think, from what I've seen, received recognition for a fantastic drive at Spa, but maybe not as much as what Alexander received for his debut drive for Red Bull last weekend. And I'm not sure if that kind of got under his skin a little bit. You don't know how many times he's been asked the question as well, and every driver has a breaking point. But he was basically going, Alexander Albon's race wasn't all that. He spent 36 laps behind him, and obviously he's in the Toro Rosso, the slower car out of the two. So I think he was probably a little bit of, well, why was his incredible and why isn't mine being spoken about in the same ilk type of thing. I think he desperately wants the recognition for pushing on and getting a higher seat, that he is a very underrated driver. And I think he probably deserves it a little bit, to be recognised a little bit more. We made sure that we did in our reviews with the Fantasy Weekly and our race review, give him credit for that. But yeah, obviously Albon was the big talking point because he was the big switch between him and Gasly over the summer. Another one, Nico Hulkenberg. Some people thought that he might be announced as Haas driver this weekend. And on Thursday in the press conference, but he wasn't announced. He more came out that there was no rush for securing his 2020 seat. I think that's what we kind of discussed before. That's why I very much feel with Hulkenberg, he's going to wait and bide his time. I feel there will be options to keep him in F1. I don't think he has to worry. And he's got a little bit of time. He doesn't have to rush into a team to decide if an opportunity at a higher and more competitive seat becomes available. He doesn't want to do himself out of that opportunity, which will probably be his last big opportunity to get a seat, as he's a free agent going into next year. If the unlikelihood of that Red Bull seat becomes available to him, he doesn't want to commit too early to a Haas to rule him out of that situation. And then I think that probably rounds up nicely the F1 news. So a little bit of news in regards to obviously one of the junior series, the F4 regional one in Australia will be axed for next year. They've been struggling to get double figures on their grid. And I think in the time and history of having the F4 in Australia, they've only been able to field double digits in terms of drivers in the grid once, which obviously isn't great for promoting and making a series worthwhile continuing. So it's a understandable decision to not continue that. And I believe a lot of the young drivers have been travelling, because you do certainly have to have monetary backing behind you, and drivers tend to. So they've been going across to Europe and competing in more the regional F3 championship, so competing at a higher level and getting more recognition for their work, so kind of almost skipping the F4 and just jumping straight into F3. Also, what might play a part, obviously they've launched the S5000 with the V8 engined single-seater cars. That also might be drawing attention to some drivers. So yeah, all in all, Formula 4 wasn't necessarily kicking off and picking up there. So that will be axed and no longer a part. So guys, that is a quick round up of the news. I believe I have covered everything. If I have missed anything, don't forget, mention them in the comments. Always happy to kind of be pointed out if I miss something and have a chat about that in the news. Excited for the weekend ahead. So what we'll do video wise is a live reaction to both qualifying and race. That will be with me Saturday and Sunday. Our driver ratings returns on Monday, and then the usual race review podcast will be on Tuesday, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you like what we do and you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment below what you think of the news, what your thoughts on maybe the Hulkenberg biding his time. What are your thoughts on Kvyat coming out and almost, not having quite harsh words towards Albon's drive? Maybe he should have said more, angled it towards recognising both his and Albon's drive rather than criticising Albon's drive a little bit more. And yeah, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Click that bell notification. Keep up to date with all our latest content, guys. It comes thick and fast. Remember, we're pretty much daily uploads here on this channel. And you F1 fans, keep racing.